Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Futures. Group A and B of Premier League went pretty well for me. Normally I aim for like a top 10 to top 30% finish, but between top 30 and 40 is acceptable. I think Jota did his job. I got him instead of Chopper, and he performed a lot better. Could have been even better, in fact, but unfortunately Sengel threw some games. I think the biggest issues that I had with this event was my booster activation only had 5. I normally want to get like 8 or so that's pretty poor. But Zontix, I think, was the big flaw in the draft. I don't think I made the wrong choice. It's just like a hindsight thing because Zontix has been so good. He carried my draft in that boom. And in the past has always been such a good pick. So his performance here does make me a little bit concerned about Spirit going into the playoffs. But honestly, I don't think I would have changed too much here. And I'm happy with the players I chose. So a good outcome. And now we take a look at Group C and D. Starting Group C, I think what jumps out to me immediately is I have zero confidence in the majority of these teams. I think MOUZ is the only team that I 100% think get through to the upper final and get to playoffs. I could see a case for all these teams making playoffs. You would conventionally say that Complexity and Astralis are probably the next two. And then Big, Fnatic, Imperial, M80, but honestly, this one has a lot of upset potential, and I think if you want to pick a single dark horse, grab a player from Fnatic, grab a player from Imperial. There's definitely a chance one of those teams upsets and gets through, or at the very least, get some good results from some of the weaker teams here. So MOUZ, the only team I have confidence in. The rest, up in the air. For Group D, it's pretty obvious that Vitality are the MOUZ of this group. However, I will say that I think I'm more confident in Liquid getting through than I am of like Astralis, for instance. So I think Liquid are a decent choice here. I'm anti-VP now. Every time I've drafted them, they've failed me, so I'm preying on their downfall, essentially. Also, I really rate Red Canids. I've cast these guys a few times. Davideus is nuts, and now they've got Henny. This team is really good. I don't know if this is the event that they show up at, but this is a team that I think is going to qualify for the major later this year, and I think is going to be really exciting to watch. So keep an eye on them. But I think the reason I'm so confident in Liquid here is because ENCE have been so poor lately that I think Liquid should be getting to this game no matter what. And even if they lose this game, the team they play in the lower semis is going to be a weak team. It's going to be like a Furia, it's going to be Furia or Falcons, most likely. So I kind of rate Liquid's run to playoffs, and I think that they are the third strongest team out of all of Group C and D in my books. So with that said, let's take a look at some players. Starting with Vitality, I think the biggest issue is the pricing. Very expensive team. I think Apex is too expensive as an IGL, especially when Shui is 188. So I am urging against Apex because 194, that's when you start looking to carry players from worse teams who will get you more points. I think that Spinks would normally be the player you would look at here for 215, just because he's normally better than Flamesy in harder games, but so many people have picked Spinks that I can no longer make the case for him in this event, and I actually think he's a really bad choice. And I think you're better off either paying a little bit more for Flamesy, which comes with risk, or just scrapping a gold and going Mezzy. This team is just a little bit too awkwardly priced, I think, to double up on. So I'd be urging against that, and I'd probably just get a single Vitality player. And I think part of that case is that MOUZ's pricing is a lot more reasonable. Shui is obviously the must pick for this event, and I think if you're going to pick an IGL, it's got to be him. Who you pair is up to you. Brolin and Torji are the most paired players. For good reason, Brolin is a lot cheaper than the rest, and Torji normally is performing quite well. However, I think that you should probably be looking maybe Exertion if you're looking at Torji. He's 3k more, and he's going to fly under the radar a little bit, considering he's basically the same price as Spinks. But I feel that his playstyle, and I feel like the opponents that MOUZ have got, he has a lot more point potential than Spinks does this event. So that would be my 2 cents. And personally, I think that MOUZ are better to double up on than Vitality. Don't want to look at VP. I hate VP. We're not talking about them. Liquid. JKS and Yukinda are 2 of the most picked players, and I think that's probably a mistake. I'd be avoiding JKS. Yakinda is okay. I would never get both of them. That's a massive no-no. But Yakinda's been performing a lot better than JKS and is only 3k more. I think Ultimate's way too expensive, but I think Naf and Twist are quite reasonable. Personally, I think that Naf is the best value player on Liquid going into this. I think his playstyle is a lot safer than Twist's, and so he's always going to perform even in losses. And I think Twist has taken a little bit of a hit since taking on the IGL duties. So personally, I think Naf, Yakinda are the two go-to players here. Astralis is kind of tricky just because I think their pricing is a little bit higher than what their performance has been. Device is too expensive, so I guess you're looking at Stown, Yavi, or Stare. I would only get one. I think Complexity are cool. I think they're a cool alternative to going a gold from MOUZ or Vitality. You get a Liege, and then you pair him with Floppy. Floppy is hands down the best value for money player out of this team. And I think you either get just Floppy or you get Floppy a Liege. Falcons, hard to make the case just because of the pricing, but Dupree and Magisk are the two that I think are maybe the only reasonable choices, but really hard to draft this team. I think Furia definitely have a case given what we've seen in some of the recent games. I think Fallen for 190 has been performing very well recently. And then you got K-Serato at 209. If you want to go a little heavier into this team, that's very cheap for K-Serato. Big is really hard to make a case for. I guess Tabson is 182,000. That's quite cheap. But this team's been struggling a lot and I don't have the faith with them on LAN, so I'd be passing. I think Fnatic have some interest, and I think that interest is primarily BlameF. If you take a look at his stats in the last 3 months, it's pretty absurd. 1.31 rating. We know what BlameF's like, all right? He's a beta. He's always going to perform well, even in losses, and we might not like that as viewers, but what we do like it is as fantasy players. He is always a good choice in fantasy. So even though Fnatic might not scrape through, even if they come 5th or 6th in their group, BlameF's going to perform in all of those games. Right? That's the key thing. He has a 1.31 rating and they've lost 40% of their maps in the last 3 months. I think BlameF is a real sleeper fantasy pick and you should be definitely considering him. M80's tough. Lake, I guess, but I wouldn't double up on this team. Hence, I have just zero faith in it at the moment, unfortunately. I think Imperial, there's an interesting case for. I think Phelps and No Way are the two players I wouldn't pay extra for Tri or Dissentia with their chances in this group, but I think No Way for 189. I would normally, in fact, I tried to draft him, but the problem is I think there's better players from this team. Henny and Davideus. 186 for Henny, 189 for Davideus. Ultimately, I think Imperial have a higher chance of getting through, but I think that for the money, Davideus and Henny are going to perform better than the equivalent players that Imperial would. I mean, Henny is what, 20k cheaper than Tri? I think you're going to get similar ratings, personally. So yeah, I'm looking at these two players from Red Canids. If you want to get like a little sleeper Jota style pick, that's who I'm looking at. Not looking at Atox, not looking at Rooster at all. This team without Netic is not going to do anything. So that's some players. So I've already kind of teased where my team is going, but from Vitality, the only player that I feel comfortable drafting is Mezzy. I think the rest are too expensive for their roles, and Spinks is too overpicked, so I don't want to follow the crowd on that. Instead, from MOUZ, as mentioned, Shuey, have to choose him. Exertion, gonna be the guy at combo. Kind of said my piece on him. I think he's the best value to get. I think Brolin's an okay choice, but because he's overpicked and because I think Exertion has a lot more potential, I'm trying to edge against all the Spinks pickers here. So that's my combo from the top two teams. As mentioned, I think Naf is the best player from Liquid, and I think Liquid is the team that is the third strongest in my book. So I wanted to get the majority of my players from those top 3 teams from these 2 groups, in my eyes. Already, I feel this is quite strong. And now I just need my Jota equivalent. I need my carry from one of the lesser teams. And with that value, you can maybe guess where we're going. Dun, 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 dun. I'm grabbing Henny. I think Henny is going to get me points no matter what. I think his playstyle means that even in losses, he will perform. And so I'm very happy with this. This is my team. I think that we've drafted something pretty good here that should capitalize on the runs from these teams. And I actually feel more confident in this than I did in Group A and B. So let me know what you think. Let me know, of course, how you did in the last event, what you're drafting for this one. And as always, good luck.